we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Ann Cole, and I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Federation of Art. Thank you for joining us for the awards ceremony for our 46th annual Art on Paper exhibition, where we get to celebrate one of the most basic materials, paper. I'm happy to welcome Joann Moser as our juror for this exhibition. Joann is the Senior Curator Emerita of the Smithsonian American Art Museum and was the Senior Curator of Graphic Arts for 30 years. She received her PhD in art history from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and her Bachelor's of Art in art history from Smith College. She's currently working on a catalog raison on the prints of Sean Scully, and we're very fortunate that Joann is joining us as our juror for our Art on Paper exhibition. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Joann.
I've never done an awards ceremony, so please be understanding. First of all, I am very sorry I didn't get to see the works in person. I always insist on seeing the works before I award prizes. But this year I had COVID, and I still have COVID. So I apologize that I'm not as familiar with them as I would like to be. However, this is about the third or fourth, maybe even more time that I've juried this show because I like it a lot. I think we get very high quality works for this show. So it's always very satisfying to serve as a juror for this particular exhibition. I do it every couple of years, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show when I'm well. Now, let's go over this statement. Indeed, it is really a challenge to jury any show. It's particularly a challenge when you don't have the works in front of you, but it's not just COVID that has made that necessary. You know, just the physical sending things around means that all shows, or almost all shows, are juried at a distance. When you first see the entries, there's over 400 for this show, it is really overwhelming. They're all over the place. But as luckily I had the time, I took it, I would, see it in doses and begin to, my first time through is to eliminate, and then I start focusing on what I really like. It's a very subjective process. It can't be anything but. And my primary criterion for selecting something is something that I want to see again. Something that grabs me in such a way that it holds my interest for whatever reason. And so I was able to eliminate a lot of works that sort of were one shot, I saw it and that was really all I needed to see. So I would say that for everyone who was selected for the show, everyone deserves an award because there were over 400 works in the beginning. We narrowed it down to about 60. That's a very small percentage of, relatively small percentage of what was submitted. So I keep going through, I go through the works over and over. I do it both by a process of elimination and by a process of selection of what I really like. Because I'm a curator, I'm always at some level thinking about what is this show going to look like? What works would I hang together? What works are really so outstanding they have to be in, even though they don't work with anything else. I wanted to make sure that I had representation of the various subjects and styles and techniques that were used. I must admit I was somewhat inclined to pick unusual techniques if they were well done, not just because they were unusual. But then you'll see that some of the works and some of the prize winners are some of the oldest and most traditional techniques. So, I try very hard to be representative, even though I'm looking for what, at the moment, I consider the best work. But like I said, if I went back a second time, I probably would pick other prize winners because it's such a subjective thing. The other thing that I had to be aware of is how the works could be accommodated in the gallery. I'm familiar with the gallery because I've juried for this show several times, and I really hate when there are too many works of art in a space. I feel none of them can really speak. So I like to have space around the works. Now, obviously, I wanted to get in as many things as I possibly could, but I also didn't want to have so many works that it felt crowded, and I hope it doesn't, and I will see as soon as I can get there. Now, I want to say that I have been impressed with the quality of works that have been submitted this year, as I have in the past. And like I said, I'm a little uncomfortable awarding prizes without having seen them in person, but that's the way things are. So why don't we start? I can't say a whole lot about individual works because I've never seen them in purpose. I try to make sure that I'm doing, well, what can I say? I like abstraction, I like representation. This particular one, it's titled Raindrops. And what intrigued me was the fish in the background. I think those are goldfish. And if they aren't goldfish, that's what they look like to me. And so I think what I'm seeing is looking down into a pond of fish with raindrops falling on top. So it's very representational in one sense, but of course it is totally abstract. Great color. I must admit, I have some, I tend to, well, I shouldn't say favor, but I like works that are in this vertical format. I'm very interested in Asian art and work by Asian American artists. And of course, I don't know any of the artists. I never saw any names or anything, but I do think this is a very effective format, and particularly for something as abstract as these raindrops. This is a work that I can look at for a really long time, and that's a top criterion for my selection. Okay, well, let's go on to the next one. I think I mentioned to you that I'm very interested in Asian art. And one of the things that most impressed me when I was in China were the cut paper compositions that I saw. And they just bowl me over. And this one, although I couldn't see it in person, I could enlarge it to the point that I could see that this artist really knew what they were doing. I didn't know if it's a he or a she. But I love the idea that what we're seeing is the cut areas of paper, that it's done with such finesse and refinement and such an incredibly beautiful composition. Of course, the unusual technique really attracted me, and it's a technique that can be done well, but it also can be done very poorly. And it seemed to me that this was an extraordinary work. Is the artist here? No.
Yes.
Yes. Dennis, good.
Yes.
Congratulations. This is a great work.
Thank you.
Did you ever study in China or anything like that?
No, not really.
Oh, all right. Well, I just thought it was an exceptional example of this cut paper technique. What can I say? I am looking forward to seeing it in person.
Yeah, it is hard to see the three-dimensionality from a photograph of it.
Exactly. Well, I've seen enough of these that I could imagine it. I was blown away. What can I say?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or whatever? Okay, let's move on. Remembering Indigo. Is this artist here? Well, all right. I love the idea that it was a newspaper fragment collage.
Yes, I am here. Just
You
to let you
are?
know. Yes.
Oh, all right. Good, good. It's a really powerful image. A portrait, I assume. I don't know if it's a portrait of a specific person.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought it might be because it has some very distinctive features. And I thought the entire composition, the off-center composition, the distinctiveness of the features, and then, of course, balanced by the more abstract pattern at the right. To some extent, I like this in a way that I like mosaics. It's clearly not a mosaic, but it just struck me as a really powerful portrait. Who's the subject?
The subject was a 20-year-old male model named Indigo.
Uh-huh.
And I did it in a life drawing class years ago. And so I resurrected the drawing and retraced the silhouette and then made the collage from the line drawing of his silhouette.
Well, it's a very powerful image. And of course, when you're jurying from images and not the actual thing, the power of the image is all that much more important, because unfortunately, things that are very subtle don't come across as well when you're jurying online the way I was.
Right.
And so I'm sure there were some great things that I overlooked that were much more subtle and not as powerful, but that's just the way it is. And this is really, again, like I said, one of the things that I choose is something that I would like to look at again and again. And each time I look at it, I see something different.
Right. This was done using the New York Times. So I take large fields of color, and the background is cut shape, so the edges are sharp, and the blue color is torn so that when I apply the medium gel to it, it weaves together almost like a fabric. And then I take my thumb and I move the ink as it melts with the medium. And so I get a painterly quality to the cut paper fragments as well.
See, now I wish I could really appreciate all those subtleties. I am really looking at the power of the image here and some of the subtleties. But congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Should we move on? This was, of course, I have to tell you, when I sit with my cat, I call us Madonna and Child. Any woman and small creature, I think of as a Madonna and Child, but this is a great one. I love the way the halos are handled. Is the artist here?
Yes, I am.
Where are you? Oh, hi.
Roz.
I just thought it was such a sweet image, and the child looking directly at the viewer it's haunting. And
Yes.
the love in the mother's face is, very tangible. It's not overloaded with religious, well, it had, obviously it's religious symbolism, but it is a mother and child.
Yes.
I wish I could see it in person, because I see that there are a number of media, the metallic glazes and paint wax.
Yeah.
I really don't have much of a sense of that from my screen.
It has a lot of shimmer, and like in a Renaissance painting, the halos are actually gold. And
Really?
myself, not a religious person, but it struck me one day hearing, as we ban books and change history, a woman talking about what she believed in her religion. I thought, but what if they're not white? I mean, what if the next people who come, who are the ones you're waiting for, turn out to be a young Black girl and her adoring mother? And that's what I portrayed. The future as I see it.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I hadn't picked up on that, but that stare of the child is so engrossing. And
she was very serious, but her mother had what a mother should have when she looks at her child. The love in her face is quite evident. She was actually pregnant with another child at this time.
Yeah.
The mother.
It grabbed me, and I wanted to keep looking at it. And
Thank you.
congratulations. It's a really wonderful work.
Thank you.
Okay. Oil on paper. We were talking about media. I wanted something that was very traditional, and how much more traditional can we be than oil on paper? This is one of those scenes that we've all seen hundreds of times, a highway. But this artist managed to, he took an ordinary scene and made it into a composition, a work of art that held together and rose above what, its naturalistic identity. What can I say? It's actually sort of an ugly scene, but he transformed it into something, I wouldn't say of beauty, but certainly of great interest. And I love the way the yellow holds the entire composition together. I'm not one to like pictures of pretty things, because I thought, well, the work is, the subject is pretty. Am I mistaking that for a great work of art? In this case, I think the subject is not very pretty, but it is interesting. And the way the artist has framed it and highlighted it, made it into something that I thought was special. The fact that it was Utah had very little to do with it. I mean, it could be anywhere. Okay, do we have one more?
I actually think that was the last award,
Oh, that's-
Joann, that you gave.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I wish I could have given prizes to everyone, because like I said, to be chosen as the final 60 from a group of over 400 is really, I think, an honor, because there were a lot of good things and the show could have been totally different and maybe even been as good. I hope I'll be able to meet some of you at I guess there's a closing reception.
Yes, so we have a closing reception scheduled for April 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. in Circle Gallery. So I'm hoping
Okay.
a lot of our artists, as well as you, Joann, can come together to celebrate the exhibition and just enjoy one another's company.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I will probably go before then, because I'm eager to see what the show looks like.
Yes, and Midori, we would love to have you join us from San Francisco, but please definitely send your friends to the closing reception or before to see all of the work in the gallery in person.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming today. And I hope you like the show as much as I think I will like it. And it'll be at least another week before I go there. I want to make sure I'm well. I don't want to expose anyone. Well,
Thank you, Joann, so much for doing this, going through the selection process and then doing the awards while you're sick. We really appreciate your effort and your commitment to our organization. I want to thank all of the artists also. We couldn't do what we do without you all continuing to submit your work, and we're incredibly fortunate to have such a large group of artists share their work so that we can bring it to the public in Circle Gallery. So thank you all very, very much. And we look forward to seeing you all on April 29th.
okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good to see you.
Sunday.
Thank you.